Sometimes you get a video game series that's so dead, it's so buried, it's so extinct, that the only positive you can really take out of it is at least it's not being ruined. My memories are still there, I can still think back to the good old days, at least they're not tarnishing its memory. That is no longer the case with Deus Ex. They've resurrected it many years after the series looked over, after a big cliffhanger with Mankind Divided. It's an odd series. It had many different developers, from the original Invisible War, then the Square Enix games, which ended a decade ago on that cliffhanger with Mankind Divided. It seemed like we'd never get anything again. It really did look over. Even the most coping of people who hope, no, Adam Jensen will be back, seemed like it was time just to give up on that dream. It just wasn't happening. But that's no longer the case, because in the Sony State of Play, their big presentation, there was an unexpected announcement that no one saw coming, that they're bringing back Deus Ex. They're resurrecting the original. They're bringing it up to modern standards. We're going to get new visuals. We're going to get changes to bring it into that modern age. And here it is. It's produced by Aspyr. And unfortunately, by Remastered, they basically meant a hack job that even an unpaid solo modder would be embarrassed for. If you produce this as a modder, what they've done to upgrade the visuals and enhance the game, if a modder showed this sort of work off and said, here's what I've done for it, I'm going to release the mod, the community would laugh at them. Even though it would be free, people would say, just give up. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is just AI slop, it looks like. You've put no effort, no love into it. Get out of the modding community. But this isn't a mod. This remaster is a paid endeavor that in my currency they're asking $40 for this. It comes out early next year, so get your pre-orders in. This is what Deus Ex has become. This is the series with conspiracy theories and evil corporations has now been monetized as some sort of nostalgia bait grab where they put zero effort into it and they just hope that idiot fans who wish we'd get a new entry one day, they're desperate for something. It's a lazy hack job together. Give us your money because you're going to get nothing else. That's the level of love given to the Deus Ex series in 2025, in 2026. It's kind of sad, but it's also not unexpected. There actually was some sort of leak a few years ago where there was an Adam Jensen game in development and it got cancelled. So Embracer Group are the current owners of Deus Ex. They bought it off Square Enix a while back. There was that big transaction, Hitman, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex as well, all got transferred to Embracer Group. And myself, many other people thought, well, Deus Ex can't get any worse, right? It was sitting idle with Square Enix, who did nothing after Mankind Divided. Embracer Group takeover, there was some hope, there was some optimism that they might do something. Then we get that leak. We were so close yet so far. They pulled it away from us where they had an Adam Jensen game in development. They cancelled it. And what did they replace it with? This. This is what we've got. So if you've been a loyal fan all this time, hoping and waiting, this is what you're going to get. And that same leak actually had this in there. I'd completely forgotten. And I wish I could forget about the whole thing because it's so embarrassing that if you know anyone where you've told them about, the original Deus Ex, you might not have played it. You might have only played the more recent ones, like Human Revolution. You might have missed the original. Then you show them this. They're going to look at you funny, like, no, I don't want to play this. This looks so awful. This is so embarrassing. What is this? Like the lighting, everything's so shiny and fake. Obviously, it is just an AI hack job where this Aspyr, who are owned by Embracer, I'm going to get into sort of why this is so bad, because I think I have the answer. But basically, they have these IPs. Aspyr and Embracer have all these sort of dead IPs laying around, like Deus Ex. They did this to Soul Calibur. They've sort of done it to Tomb Raider, not this badly, but just old IPs lying around. How can we milk them, but not invest anything? We don't want to spend any money. We just want to take money from the old loyal fans until even they're not fooled. So they just cobble something together. They spend nothing on this. It's probably just a bunch of outsourced people in a room who run it through AI, filters, generators, whatever. And this is what it is. There's no quality control whatsoever. They don't care about preserving the old art style or really anything. They're not checking any of it. It's just, get this out ASAP. We're going to charge an inflated price that this does not deserve. And that's it. We know that this is going to hurt the IP. It's going to hurt trust. We don't care whatsoever. Because we're never going to release another Deus Ex game. That'd cost a lot of money to invest in. We're not going to do it. We're just going to try our very best to find the next games as a service cash cow. We'll keep investing money into failed games until we strike gold and get the next big one. That's what most of these companies do. But Embracer is one of the worst. And they're one of the worst because they own so many of these old nostalgic IPs like this. Again, there was a time 5 years ago where many of us, including me, were deluded into thinking, oh, maybe Embracer buying up all these small studios. They bought a lot of different IPs from around the world, like the Gothic games. That's getting a remaster. Is it going to be as bad as this? We haven't seen anything that bad, but they're doing the same thing to the Gothic games, I think. Maybe they're just ports, which would be for the best. At least they won't look this shit. But they've also got tons and tons of other IPs. I feel the same way about Microsoft. These big companies that own every little IP under the sun. I mean, Microsoft, they own Fallout, they own Elder Scrolls, they own all those Bethesda IPs when they were a publisher, like Wolfenstein, Doom, and so on. And they haven't ruined all those yet, but they will eventually. Once they're not generating that big money machine, they're going to do the same thing as they're doing to Deus Ex and so on. That's where the industry is headed. The games that get the big investment and they actually put some effort into, they're the ones that they think are going to turn into gigantic cash cows, usually a big live service element. Anything else that's a smaller release, it's just going to be this AI slop, it seems like. And the screenshots that you look at, they're so awful. But the most embarrassing thing is, from what I've been reading, the before and after pictures, so when they show you what the original game looked like, and then look what we've done to enhance the game, they're purposely lowering the graphic settings in the original and lowering the lighting and things to make it look worse, so their shitty remaster looks better. And it still doesn't work, it's still a massive fail, people can still see it's abysmal. But imagine it's that sad that you have to make the original look worse from 2000 to make the 2025 version maybe look better, maybe look acceptable even. It's still not acceptable. In fact, it's very rare, I think, that you get one of these games where everyone is on board, right? If you think of some of the most divisive games that are out there, if I think of some older ones like Dragon's Dogma 2 or Mass Effect Andromeda that were embarrassments, there were still some coping fans who'd be like, guys, at least we're getting a new one, it's alright. I'm not seeing that with Deus Ex Remastered. Everyone hates it. Everyone thinks it's pathetic. And fortunately, it doesn't seem that too many people are falling for the old trick of, oh, well, look, this sucks and everything, but maybe we buy it and then they greenlight a new entry. We should still show our support. We should still be grateful that the series is coming back. I don't think anyone's even falling for that because of just the level of laziness and utter contempt for the game. For paying fans to embarrass them in this way is really just sad. I honestly think that the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake that got announced at some point, it's been ages, I can't believe that hasn't come out yet, but at some point, whatever year it was, it got announced, looked awful. Ubisoft ended up pulling it and going back to the drawing board. I think this looks even worse than that. So that's really saying something, but they're going to release this, they won't care about the controversy. Because it is Embracer. Embracer do not care, which I will elaborate on. Some of the things that are in here, it's not even just the visuals themselves that are pathetic. I mean, you've got another before and after here. The original game where it was supposedly this dark. I can't remember if it actually was. But that's not even the most embarrassing part, it looks like, because in a lot of these older games, you would have, in this case, you might have a bulletin board in the back. But the game has pretty low quality textures, for that time impressive, but back then you couldn't read anything. So you have a bulletin board with scribble, you can't actually read the writing. Well, good news, it's enhanced, so now you can read what's on this bulletin board. It's just a bit of something in the background, it's not a big deal. but they still managed to screw that up. It should just be background. It shouldn't really mean anything. But they managed to spell words wrong. So there's a bit of flavor in the background, there's a bulletin board, and there's something about strategies on there. But strategies has been misspelt. They fucked this up as well. They didn't quality check it. Why would they? That would cost money, and they don't want to spend any money on this. That's the business model of these lazy remasters, is every dollar we spend on the remaster is $1 less of profit. So let's do nothing. Let's do the absolute bare minimum we can get away with, and that's considered a good job. That's success for us, because we're just hoping people are going to buy this on name alone. It was at the Sony presentation. Those fans, they don't know any better. They didn't play the game when it came out. What would they know? That's how they're treating people. So this AI upscaling, clearly, I don't think it's even just they upscaled it and then wrote their own text, because AI doesn't make spelling mistakes like this. So it seems that they upscaled the image, and it seems like this is what it came up with. It can't spell words right. So there's your quality remaster. And this was clearly in promotional material, so how bad does it get in the content that we haven't seen as of now? So really lazy, really just sad stuff. And as far as I understand it, they have done this sort of hack job to other games before. This isn't their first rodeo. They've done this lazy job with other titles and so on. But this is a series that I love. This original Deus Ex is beloved. It is a favorite. So to see them ruin that does feel more personal. It feels like it should be more scrutinized. But I was curious as to why. Like, how does this happen? How do things get this embarrassing? I think it's actually quite clear, because this year alone, they've done this. So Aspyr, who, again, they're owned by Embracer, which we'll get to, they released a supposed enhanced edition of Neverwinter Nights 2. Now, this was under the radar. I think people just didn't care. I don't think this was at a big presentation, as far as I remember. But this has been panned. People hate this. They call it enhanced, but it's more broken than the original release from like 20 years ago. That one, of course, has had mods and so on that are no longer compliant. They don't work with the new enhanced one. But even mods aside, supposedly this is even more broken than the original when it came out. It's a joke. It's not really enhanced. That's kind of false advertising as well. They really just did nothing for this. So it was panned, it's got mixed reviews on Steam, it seems like barely anyone even bought it. But it did go under the radar, so most people don't even know about it. But that's one example of another game that they've ruined, done this lazy job for. There was also Tomb Raider. So there were the old remasters 1, 2, and 3 that were fairly well received. I played the first game, and it was alright. I mean, you could switch from the old style graphics to the new. Seemed fine, relatively smooth. I mean, it probably wasn't that expensive to do. They probably did well financially from that. I'm sure they charged a fair bit for it, despite not doing all that much work to it, but at least it was an acceptable release. They didn't embarrass themselves, aside from the title screen, where I think they apologized because Lara was invading people's cultures or some other nonsense. But that aside, it was relatively well received. The original Tomb Raider remasters, they were a few years ago. They've since released 4, 5, and 6 that I can guarantee far less people have looked into. Positive reviews on Steam, but then I saw the most upvoted one, which is a negative review. And the negative review specifically points to how it updates the game by including an AI ripoff of the French voice actor of Lara without her consent. So it's just more evidence of them just cutting corners with AI in ways where it doesn't even really make any sense. It's landed them in hot water. They were that lazy. Like, they're in legal trouble, it sounds like, from doing this, as far as I understand. Because I think they had to change this. They had to remove the AI voice acting of the French voice actress. So we talk about cost cutting. What can they get away with? They're actually committing illegal acts. They're that desperate to save money. They just don't care about anything. If we can save costs by any means necessary and just not invest in this game, invest in this series, if we can do that, we're going to take that option. We're going to do it. So they're doing that for the Tomb Raider remasters that weren't even all that badly received. It's sort of people are noticing later some of that laziness, some of those illegal acts. But it's getting worse. Why is it getting worse? Well, I think the answer is obvious. Because Aspyr, which is under the Embracer Group, which is that big conglomerate. They had that massive travesty a number of years ago where they were buying every studio under the sun. They were buying all these IPs, but then it all collapsed like a house of cards. They had some deal with the Saudis, Saudi oil money, and it was all going to be a big investment, and they were going to have all this money to make every game in the world. It was all going to be great. But then the Saudis pulled out at the last minute, and that's when things collapsed. Embracer had to fire a bunch of people. They had to close a whole bunch of studios. I mean, firing a bunch of people isn't even really scratching the surface. Like, they fired thousands and thousands of people, got rid of lots of people. Now, that wasn't just routine layoffs. It was worse because they were buying studios who were still operating. They might have been studios in a bit of financial trouble, but they were studios that existed and made games. And then Embracer buys them. Oh, well, now we're in financial trouble, and then closes them. So they're basically just destroying games with these actions. They were very risky actions because they were relying on this deal that wasn't set in stone, and then they kind of just blew up the industry. And since then, we haven't heard a lot from them, but what we can now see that they're doing is they're just being as lazy as possible with their releases. They're investing nothing, probably because they don't really have any money and they're just holding on and they're just desperate to just bring in any cash that they can. And they're doing it at the expense of these IPs and, of course, the fans. So they're hoping to sucker in. The issue is it's not our problem. If you're doing this, if you're going to be this pathetic with beloved IPs, I hope people just take notice so you do not get this money. I'd prefer that they just blow up and the IPs, maybe somehow they end up somewhere else. Because if this is what they're doing with Deus Ex and a number of other series, they were A, either better off dead, or B, at least anywhere else. Like, things can't get any worse now. I thought Deus Ex was at its worst under Square Enix. I couldn't be more wrong. It's worse under these clowns. So what you can see is Aspyr, who are doing this remaster, did the Tomb Raiders, they've done Legacy of Kain, they were doing a bunch of Switch ports as well a few years ago. I was kind of surprised because not everything that they've done has been poorly received. So I assumed, oh, are they just delivering slop after slop? Let's have a look at what they've done. It isn't all bad, it seems like. But where things have really taken a turn is post-2024, when Embracer Group sold Saber Interactive. So I don't want this to be too confusing, but the short of it is, because there's so many of these corporations involved and Embracer Group keeps buying everyone out, Embracer Group bought Saber Interactive, who also owned Aspyr. And what that meant is that Aspyr were reporting to Saber Interactive and their management team. And that management team were probably decent about, hey, let's deliver some sort of quality. We've got these old games. If we just do a reasonable job, we're probably going to bring in a decent return. Maybe we can do some more after this, and the fans will be looking forward to it. But Embracer got rid of Saber Interactive and all of that management. They sold them off. So now, Aspyr, the developer, they're actually reporting directly to Embracer Group management, who we know are clowns and who we know are just absolutely desperate to bring in money by any means necessary. The short of it is, sometimes you would think, oh, we're cutting out layers of management, this is going to be better. But in this case, I don't think it is, because Embracer Group, the head honchos, really just do not give a shit. They're only looking at the short-term coffers now, and anything can be sacrificed. Deus Ex, anything else to bring in this money. So since that happened, since Saber were gone, and it's just Aspyr, and it's just Embracer Group, it's just been slop. It's just been the most lazy shite that is possible. Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition, AI voice actors in Tomb Raider who were illegally there. They didn't get permission from the original voice actress, and apparently they needed to do that. That's what people are saying. Apparently there was some sort of legal action taken. And now it's Deus Ex. Probably the one that people would care about most at this point, I would say. Like, that's a game, people hear Deus Ex, they remember the good old days. Maybe some people played the original, or they played the ones that came later. Mankind Divided, Human Revolution, and so on. So to see it treated this poorly, it has got people banded together going, this is probably the worst thing that we've ever seen. How could you do this to Deus Ex? This is just a total embarrassment. You want $40 for this? comes out in 4 months, the only thing that can honestly be done at this point is just do not buy this. If you're on PC, there are mods that will do a much better job for free. They're produced by passionate fans. You can upscale everything. You can probably get better graphics. Any of the quality of life improvements that are in it, they were probably just stolen from modders anyway. There's nothing original here. It is a total cash grab. Everyone sees it. Let's hope it flops miserably, and honestly, best case scenario, Embracer just hand the IP off to somewhere else, because I don't think they're ever going to recover. I think they're beyond recovery. I think Embracer Group are just a total embarrassment. It's better for everyone that those IPs end up anywhere else, but we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.